I have a friend, man. I'll make everybody turn to human stomach. All I do is eat.
Oh yeah. All right, let's get it started here.
Okay.
Welcome everyone to the Content Crash podcast. I'm your host Dan Hartnack. With me, as always, is Kino Eastman. Kino, what's going on?
I'm actually drooling over these deals on PS4 and kind of out of nowhere, man. Just Padapon's back. Are you serious? I can play it.
Nice.
Finally.
Yep.
Sundered looks good.
Oh yeah, I just saw something about Sundered. I gotta check it out more in depth, but it looked pretty cool.
Yeah. Just lining up on sale. Just all looks good. I was very surprised.
And sale is a good thing. I love sales. I love not spending a lot of money on my games.
Me too.
So anyway, today's episode, we're kind of going to do a more laid-back, relaxed thing, and talk about our past, how we got into gaming, what games we played growing up. This is the retro episode, if you will. And yeah, so I guess we'll get right into it. I am, if people don't know, I am 31 years old, so I've been playing for quite a while. I started way back in the very, very early 90s. I jumped in, I don't remember the exact year. It was probably either 1990 or 1991, where my grandparents bought, like, it was kind of like the family Nintendo, and we kept it at my grandparents' house. And yeah, that was my first introduction to true gaming. I played like some, educational games on Windows 3.1 way back, but that's nothing. And obviously Solitaire and stuff like that. But
Oh yeah.
yeah. But yeah, the NES was my first real console that I played religiously. Like, oh my god, I want to go over to my grandparents' house. Like, can't they watch me for the day because I want to play video games?
Sounds familiar.
And but I'll never forget. I forgot the date, but I'll never forget the actual day of getting that NES. It was Christmas Eve, and we always spent Christmas Eve over my grandparents' house with my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, all that. And I unwrapped the NES, and I was like freaking out. Like, we went right into the TV room, set it right up, and it came with the triple cartridge of Super Mario, Duck Hunt, and Track and Field. And they even
track and field.
Yeah, they even had the Track and Field pad that you could run on. Like, it was like the early iteration of Dance Dance Revolution pads.
Right.
And it just would the thing was so wacky. It didn't work like half the time. Like, you're trying to run, and like your character's just like chugging along like frame by frame. But yeah, so there was that game, and then for the adults of the family, they got a game called Casino Kid, which was a game. It was like a gambling game, so it was like, it had poker. You control a kid in a casino, and you can go to different tables and stuff in the game, and you play poker or blackjack or roulette and other casino games. And I remember that one because first of all, I wasn't technically allowed to play it because it was an adult game. Not like an adult only rated game. It was just, for the adults. But I do remember watching it being played by like my parents and my aunt and uncles, and like you're literally a kid in a casino, and there's like Playboy bunnies. Like, they were the animated Playboy bunnies with the ears on them, and they tell you pretty suggestive things, to go to this table and win this game, beat this guy, and it was over my head way back then. But when I plugged in the Nintendo system, I put in Mario, I started, you get the black screen 1-1, and that's when my career in gaming took off. It was unlike anything I would ever imagine at the time. It was crazy, and it was what really brings me back to it all the time, and remembering it so well was because it was with the whole family, and I remember everybody was crammed into the room watching everybody, and we were all passing the controller around, taking turns. And it was just it was a bonding moment between kind of everybody, and we're all coming together over video games, and that really stuck with me a lot. I went on to play games for the rest of my life. My aunts and uncles and my parents, not really so much, but it was just that one time where everybody was brought together in my family over video games, and I'll never forget that. It was a magical moment. Yeah, so that was my introduction to games. Kino, how'd you get started?
So I started when I moved to close to you guys in West Haven. My next door neighbors, I think I was like six, seven. They had a regular NES. Super NES was out already. I think it was out like a year already, maybe less. But I'd never even touched a controller before, and they let me play the original Mario, and there was something about it that I could not let go of, to the point where when they were gone and I was like home as a kid, I would go over and ask their mom if I could come inside and play Nintendo. Like I had like a little addiction. And my parents realized that I was going over there a lot. So one Christmas, they just bought a Super NES for Christmas. They didn't know anything about it, so they didn't have the old wires, old component wires for it. So I had to spend Christmas Day looking at my Super NES until we could go to Radio Shack and get the wires. Right. And then I finally sat down. I got to play Super Mario. And I think the rest kind of took off from there, even though I was bad at it. I think the games that really solidified it. I think one of the big ones was Link to the Past, and later on Super Metroid. That's when I really started to like know that I wanted to just play games as a hobby, like all the time. Like that was the greatest thing ever.
Oh, absolutely.
And it kind of just went from there. The Super NES kind of just opened the doors to all the other great games that I wanted to play. My neighbors got a Sega Genesis eventually, and my other neighbors had a Sega Genesis, and I would go over and play those too. And I started realizing that was what the console wars were, and just kind of got introduced to the culture via having a Super NES and building a library.
Yeah,
and I definitely don't regret starting there.
Yeah, I mean, the SNES is definitely a great place to start. They had so many fantastic games.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, over the years or over the next months after I got the NES over my grandparents, I would, go out and, whenever I'd stay over there, my parents would take me to like the video store, and I'd rent a couple games to play for the weekend if my grandparents were watching me. And I remember picking up like Mega Man,
Yep.
and that blew my mind. Like I was like, my mind was already blown with Mario, and then I picked up Mega Man and Mega Man 2, and that changed my life forever. Mega Man, I will always say, is my favorite character in any video game. It was awesome. Like I love robots, I love space, I love sci-fi, I love it just, and it all came together in the game, and it was and the shooting mechanics and the sliding components of it. Well, not in the first one, but Mega Man really took off for me. And like I remember going to the video store, all the time before I go over to my grandparents, and I just get the next Mega Man and the next one and the next one, and the next one. And then you had mentioned Zelda, but yeah, I started with the original Zelda on the NES. I had the gold cartridge, the classic gold cartridge. And yeah, for me at the time, it was it was insane. Like I didn't know what the hell I was doing for a kid that's like, you know, 5 years old. It's a bit confusing, but I just remember being in awe of it and just trying different things out until they worked. and that the discovery in all these games was an amazing feeling as you're playing through, you know, finding secrets in Zelda, or you know, figuring out the warp zone system in the Mario franchises. It was, I love the discovery aspect of a lot of these games, and that's how still I even today I love games that tell me a story and will give me environments that I enjoy, you know, just taking in and looking around and discovering the world around me. That's a really cool thing. You know, and then we have obviously the bigger open world games of today, but back then it was, you know, you have Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy, all the RPGs from back then, and that was like, you know, oh my god, this game is going to take me more than an hour to beat, or more than 2 hours to beat. Like, this has a save file. What's a save file? So yeah, it was, you know, just the discovery aspect of everything, and then as games gradually got bigger and bigger and bigger, it just opened up more doors. There's so many good classic games out there. I could spend hours just going back and going through everything. You know, I mentioned Mega Man and Castlevania, and you mentioned Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
I played the hell out of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like one of the hardest games. I still never beat it to this day. I've never gone back and beaten it.
That game is rough.
It's very rough.
It's up there with Battletoads.
I remember I perfected the I would get through the water part with like only losing one turtle, and then the next part, which is like even more insane. But it took me like years to just get past the water part, you know, where you're disabling the bombs, and game is too hard. But oh yeah, and Battletoads, absolutely. Oh my god, I still haven't beaten that either.
No, Battletoads is rough.
Battletoads is very rough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and then in the SNES you have Star Fox and the introduction of the Mario Kart series. That was,
that was great.
Yeah, because you know, racing game. I'm not too into racing games. Like, I don't like cars, whatever. And then you play Mario Kart, and you're like, wait a minute, this is awesome. Like,
it's really unexpected.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I never had a Sega Genesis, but I had a lot of friends who did. So I would go over. I would be over your house all the time. You had the consoles, so
I really did.
You know, you play Sonic and Golden Axe, Altered Beast, and then, you know, that was also the advent of the home fighting games. You know, you always go to the arcade to play fighting games, but now I can play Mortal Kombat on my couch. Like that's awesome. Yeah, so yeah, Altered Beast was another one, and oh god, was it Primal Rage?
Primal Rage.
Yeah, so you know, just the advent of the fighting games. You know, I was never too good at fighting games, but I remember going to your house all the time, and you know, we either just hook up the N64 and play Super Smash Brothers and with like everybody else on the block, and oh god, I don't know why I remember it, but I always think back to going over to your house and playing Road Rash 64. I don't know why I don't know why I keep thinking of Road Rash specifically, because we played so many other games, but it always just comes back to Road Rash.
I remember the three that really stick out for multiplayer. If you want the three kings for me is Mario Kart, GoldenEye, and Perfect Dark.
Oh yeah.
we played GoldenEye so much that we had to start inventing game modes for ourselves. That's when I realized we all had a problem.
Yeah.
Same with Perfect Dark. And then Mario Kart could just like ruin friendships in a day, and then you had to like mend it the next day.
Yep.
This is a lot of salt, but it was all in good fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I love the as many players as you could. Yeah, obviously, only back then it was only four, but just getting the whole block together and playing like a Smash tournament, or whoever gets knocked out, you give up your controller.
Yep.
Obviously, the Mario Kart, just brawls we had, and it was it was so good to just be with friends, all in the same room, all just having fun playing video games. Even if I wasn't playing, like if there were too many people and I had to sit out a couple rounds, it was still awesome. Just I'm watching people be competitive
Hmm.
in games. It was this is obviously before esports and all that took off, or were even a thought in anybody's mind, but or maybe it was a thought in some people's mind, because we had some. There were some Nintendo tournaments way back that they would like advertise Nintendo Power and all that,
Yeah,
but
you're right.
yeah, or the movie The Wizard with Fred Savage, where
Hmm.
he like I forgot the whole. I love the movie, but at the end he's like in a tournament for Nintendo, and they unveil Super Mario 3. It's like that was the early esport kind of mentality. Um, but yeah, all these games, we look back and there's just so many classics out there. Between the NES, SNES, N64, the Genesis, and the Sega Master System, and then early on, my parents never got me a console until the original PlayStation came out. That was my first home console that I had in my house. But I did have a computer before that, and I would play. I got really, really, really into the Command and Conquer series. It took off with Red Alert, the original Red Alert, and then I went back, played the original Command and Conquer, and then Red Alert 2 came out, and there was Tiberian Sun and all that. I was really big into the real time strategy games, so I played, obviously StarCraft. It's huge when I was growing up,
That was my
and
first PC. That was my first PC game was StarCraft.
StarCraft, yeah,
Yeah.
it was. I remember, I don't even. I think my dad just came home one day and he was like, "Hey, I got this for you," and he just gave me StarCraft, and I was like, "Oh, okay." I never heard about it before, and it took off, and I plugged it in. It was amazing, and then obviously I can't forget the Warcraft games.
Yep.
Still waiting for Warcraft 4.
Look, I played the living hell. Warcraft 3, having the modding community it did, I think made it last 10 times longer than it was supposed to.
Yes, it definitely did,
And
and it
yeah,
definitely was. Yeah, a lot of people look at it, Warcraft 3 and then StarCraft Brood War, in the same kind of vein, but Brood War was, in my opinion, the bigger game of the two, but what Warcraft 3 did, like what you said with the modding community, and being able to add different, just create different game modes. Obviously, Defense of the Ancients spawned out of it, and now it's
yep.
gonna have a $22 million tournament next month. But
Tower defense games. They made
yeah,
RPG. People made RPGs, like full on RPGs. You could spend an evening playing with your friends.
oh yeah, with the heroes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just it was an awesome it was just an awesome game, and it had a longevity to it. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I was really into the RTS stuff: StarCraft, Warcraft, Command and Conquer, Total Annihilation. I played with friends and stuff, and I had friends that I would go over, and we had LAN parties where we literally had in my friend's house at one time 8 computers set up, and we were all connected through LAN. and it was incredible. We had people upstairs, downstairs, in the basement, and, and we played these huge games of StarCraft or like Total Annihilation and Giant Citizen Kabuto, and we played Quake and then when I started getting into first person games, obviously Doom was right up there. I think I actually played Wolfenstein before Doom, if I'm remembering correctly, and then I picked up sense. Then I picked up Doom, and then Quake hit. I was okay with Quake. I wasn't huge on it, and then I don't know why it hit with me, but Hexen Beyond Heretic was my shit.
I love Hexen. I was past that Quake.
Oh my god,
I love Hexen.
I loved Hexen so much. I don't know why it was. It did most things. It was obviously similar to Quake, and it did. I don't think it really didn't do anything better. It was
the aesthetic.
I guess it was just the aesthetic of it. It was. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. That was a game that I've sunk a lot of time into, and then with friends, like at LAN parties and stuff, I'd play Unreal Tournament. That was huge with us, and what I just had it in my head. Oh my god, I'm blanking. Oh, we would play Ultima Online. That was the first kind of multiplayer online game that I ever had experience with, like playing with people not even in the same state as me. It was weird. That was kind of like a big another advent of an eye-opening experience of like, oh my god, I can play with people from California, or well, probably not California, it was probably too far, but just a couple states over, and it was awesome. I everything was awesome. But yeah, there's so many great games that I played on PC, and then like I said, I finally got my PlayStation. My parents broke down, bought it for me. I think one of the first games I had on there was Spyro. I love Spyro. And then, as I was growing up, I'd pick up the Final Fantasy games that would come out. Obviously, Final Fantasy VII changed my life. It was, I don't even know the word to describe it. It just, that was my first experience with Final Fantasy. I didn't play them previously on NES or anything before that. So it was 7, and then I went to 8, and then I went back and played through some of the ones on NES. But yes.
A lot of us kind of did that. We went in reverse.
Yeah.
Like I didn't start on the. I knew what Final Fantasy was when I was younger, but I never bought one. Like I bought Super Mario's RPG instead, or something of that nature, or Secret of Evermore, which I can write a dissertation about.
Yep.
But my Final Fantasy experience really started on PlayStation, then went backwards.
Yeah, and then I guess my RPG stuff. I Chrono Trigger was, I guess, the closest thing I played to a Final Fantasy type game. That was obviously an instant classic, and I'll periodically go back and play through that again multiple times because it is a just masterpiece. But yeah, the Final Fantasy series took off. I remember going to your house playing some Armored Core.
Yes,
that was so awesome.
Your introduction to From Software.
Yep. And yeah, every time there's a rumor that From Software is working on something new, it's like, oh, I secretly hope it's Armored Core and not another Dark Souls. Even though I would welcome another Dark Souls. But yeah, Armored Core needs to make a comeback because it was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And then going through everything. Eventually, I got to Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which is in my top. I put it in my top 3 games of all time.
Understandable.
I literally go back and play that every year.
That's what you should.
It is the music, the animations in it. The story is kind of cheesy, but it's still good, in my opinion. The gameplay was so tight, like the platforming. The controls are so tight. It is truly a masterpiece in my eyes. It is one of the greatest games ever made, and if you don't agree with that, fight me. I don't care. But yeah, it was just it's one of those games that just always sticks with you, and you'll go back and play it again and again and again. And I even go out of my way, like every time there's like marathons of like speed runnings, like the all games done quick or the summer games done quick marathons. I always make sure to catch the Castlevania run, and a couple others, but I always am focused. Like I look at the schedule months before or whenever they release it. I'm like, when's Castlevania? I have to watch it again and again and again. But so yeah, it's that's my gaming past, my gaming history. Obviously now we're into the age of new and exciting things, but PlayStation was my first console at home, and I loved it. I love games. I'm going to continue to love games. And obviously, PC's my mainstay, but I have a soft spot for the consoles. Obviously,
of course,
there's so many classics out there, and you can emulate pretty much everything now from the older systems. But it's not the same as going over a friend's house, sitting on their couch, and just holding those controllers together, playing some stuff.
I mean, there's a lot of weight saying that some of the best in the series for certain games, people just debate the older games rather than the newer ones. A lot of people still debate the best Final Fantasies for before like our current gen. They go to PlayStation maybe 10, and they stop at 10.
Oh yeah.
Things
I
like
haven't.
that.
Yeah, when you hear a Final Fantasy argument of what game is the best, it kind of just goes back to 10, 7, 6. I've seen some people make a case for 8 and 9, but it's not as much as the others. And that's really it. You never see anything past 10. And then with Zelda, you kind of see the same thing. Although it's kind of changing with Breath of the Wild. I still am refusing to beat that game because it's so amazing, and I don't want to give it up yet. But I mean, before that, you have kind of Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time, because they were game changers, really. And then you have debates on what's better, other than those. But I'll say it. I've been meaning to say this to a lot of people. I think Majora's Mask is a better game than Ocarina.
Some people have been saying that ever since the remake. That now they've played it, that they're older and they find less stress in it. That they're really liking Majora's Mask.
Yeah, I really like Majora's Mask. Not obviously not to say that Ocarina is a bad game. It's a all-time classic, and I absolutely loved it. If I had to rate my Zelda games right now, I think I'd go probably Link to the Past and Majora's Mask. No. And then I haven't put Breath of the Wild in my list yet, but
you will eventually.
I will eventually, and I don't know where to put it. Oh God, there's so much. And then you look at the Castlevania games. There's so many out there now. Like I don't know. I was watching a YouTube video the other day and I was like, wow, there's really that many Castlevania games out. Obviously I played through a lot. But really Symphony of the Night kind of was my last. I played a couple after that, but Symphony of the Night was the last one that I enjoyed really, and that was how many years ago now. It
That was 1997.
Yeah, it's like 20 years old. So, and there have been a ton of other Castlevania games since then. Which
I like the ones for handheld. I like the ones for advanced. What was it? Circle? Was it Circle and Moon? Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
That was fantastic. There were some really good ones. Aria of Sorrow was also good.
Yes. I've heard that. I'm gonna look up what games there were. Circle of the Moon, Harmony of Dissonance, Aria of Sorrow, Order of Ecclesia, I heard is very good. The Lords of Shadow games, which I've been meaning to pick up. Those are on Steam, so I'll probably end up playing those eventually. I have to go back and play through some, but yeah, Symphony of the Night is when I look at lists from other people, that usually falls number 1 or 2. So
for good reason.
Absolutely. Yeah, and then obviously with Mario making his progression through, I still love Mario. I haven't played. Actually, I have played up to everything now. I don't have a Switch yet, so I'm not going to play Odyssey until I get a Switch. But I enjoyed the Mario Galaxy games. Would I call them better than anything before? Probably not. Super Mario World is probably still, or 64 was very good.
64 was great. Yeah. Two of my favorite Mario games actually diverts from the original formula of Mario completely. And they're still my favorites, which is Mario RPG. I love Mario RPG.
Yep.
And Yoshi's Island. Super Mario 2 Yoshi's Island.
Oh,
which is probably my favorite for that generation for Mario platformers. I'd probably get my head taken off for that, but that game was built beautifully. The level design was fantastic. The music was great. Yoshi was the main character. The egg system, the aiming, the enemies, the bosses, like from beginning to end, too fun.
Oh yeah,
too good.
It was amazing game. And there's so many games out in the Mario franchise. I can even make a case. I'll say it. I enjoyed Mario 2. I really did. I know it was not what was expected, and it's kind of the odd man out of all the Mario games. I really enjoyed it. I don't care. It was fun. Fighting a big toad at the end. Or what was his name? Wart, right?
Was it?
I think so, if I'm recalling correctly. I loved Mario 2. Just the controls were a bit weird because each character had their kind of quirks and floatiness to them, but I don't know. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It was something different. There, I said it. I enjoyed Mario 2.
Feel better?
I do.
Good.
I feel much better now that I got that off. Now that the world knows. If you haven't played it, or if you just bash it just because it's the cool thing to do, go play it because it's a great game. And we can keep going on and on about all this, but at the end of the day, there's so many classic games out there. There's still games that are total classics that I haven't even played. There's too many games, and I don't have the time. But
we'll be here all night.
Yeah, we will be. And if I keep going on, everything that I played, especially on PC, I played so many games on PC, and we were talking a couple weeks ago, just going through our Steam backlogs. Like, I have almost 400 games in my Steam library, and like I've only played a couple hours of each game, and some just not even any bit. Like, it's there's too many games to get to. And then, you go online, you pick up an emulator for like the NES or SNES, and you just get all the ROMs of thousands of games for them that were released. And like, there's so much stuff out there, and there's so many classics that I'll probably never get to. But we grew up in an awesome time, and I think moving forward with the industry, it's in a good spot now. There's healthy competition between everybody, and awesome games are being pumped out. It's just, I don't know. It's kind of a shame to me when I think of, the younger generation, the kids that right now are 10, 11, 12, 13, that are kind of getting into gaming now. They're coming in with, their PlayStation 4s and their Xbox Ones and all that, and they're souped up PCs that can play everything at max, and they didn't go through the pain of the pixel art that we had to go through. And I don't know, it's kind of sad that a lot of those kids will never get to play some of these classics, but
there's also more like on the couch experience. I know there's some games that try to emulate bringing your friends over and sitting them down on the couch with you and playing, but you didn't have a choice. So if you were angry at somebody, you couldn't just say whatever you wanted to online. They were right next to you. If you had a problem, you should tell them.
Yep.
And they would tell you.
Yep.
And if there was a real problem, they were in punching distance.
They get punched.
Yeah. It was very personal.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's another aspect. Yeah, you lose the couch aspect of meeting with your friends and having that one-on-one social experience with other people. You're talking to a microphone like we are now, but I love, growing up. Oh man, I'm gonna go over to Kino's house. We're gonna play some video games, and you're gonna invite everybody else over, and we're just gonna all night just play video games together, and it was cool. Now you got to worry about your internet connection and this and that, and it's a different environment now. But and like you said, there are some games out there that are still offering like split screen and LAN play, but it's just not the same. I feel old saying that. I feel very old saying that. Like, oh man, these kids have it easy these days. Back in my day, if I wanted to play a multiplayer game, I had to walk a mile.
Actually.
Actually, literally walk a mile from my house to your house. But yeah, so yeah, there's our kind of background on gaming. We've been at it for quite a long time, and I hope to keep going for much, much, much longer.
Same here.
So yeah. So thank you everyone for checking us out. Follow us on Twitter, Content Crash Pod. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher. We get put up on YouTube through the Warp Zoned channel, so warpzoned.com. It's also where I write for. So yeah, check us out. Check out everything that we have to offer. Hopefully coming up in the next few weeks, I'll be getting in some special guests to come and talk about some cool things. But yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, want to send us some cool topics you want to hear covered, hit us up on Twitter. I'll leave all the links in the description. I have an email, and I forgot it off the top of my head, but I'll put that in the description too. So thank you guys once again for checking us out. We really appreciate it, and we will see you next time.
Absolutely. Final Fantasy IX is my favorite. You can crucify me for it.